So now that we know what programming is, how do we actually write code? It's not like we can simply type words into a text document and automatically assume that the computer can translate it into machine code, read it, and carry out a task like opening up a browser. And additionally, we can't just write down rubbish in certain programming languages mentioned in the previous segment and expect the computer to understand. So how are we supposed to write code then? Well, the answer is with an IDE. An IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment, allows the facilitation of code by a computer. IDEs provide a graphic interface on your computer in which the programmer can easily write, run, and debug code without having to worry about problems with complication or interpretation of the program. Think of an IDE as any other program on your computer, such as a game, a browser, or even the File Explorer, except we'll be using it to write code. IDEs are able to turn your code into machine code and run it through the computer to produce results. In addition to providing a place for programmers to develop their code, IDEs provide some extremely useful tools for programmers to ease the job of writing code, such as built-in error checking, because as we'll talk about later, code doesn't always run correctly, autofilling for frequently used words or phrases, and a project hierarchy, which will help you organize and manipulate the files within your project. Back in the olden days, before IDEs, code used to be written on punch cards and then fed into computers, which would take hours and cause a lot of pain. IDEs nowadays act as sort of a fast track to writing code and make things a whole lot easier for programmers. An example of a specific IDE can be seen on your screen now. In the center you can see the program that is currently being written, and right below it is the console, which can print out useful information for the programmer. This specific IDE is used to write Java code. IDEs are extremely powerful and will be used in almost 100% of your programming projects. So through these IDEs, we are finally able to write and compile code smoothly without worrying about the computer not being able to understand it. The next problem we run into then becomes how do we write this code in the IDE? Because it's not like we can just type random words from a certain programming language and expect the computer to understand. This is where a programming language's syntax comes into play. Now, just as if you were learning a real language, learning a computer language can be very similar. Some have different styles that may seem odd. Some may make you use weird or abstract concepts which may be confusing, and like all languages, programming languages have a set of rules that you must follow when writing code in that language, and at the forefront of those rules is grammar. Programming grammar is referred to as syntax, and is very similar to real-world grammar. Each programming language has its own syntax or rules that you have to follow to a T if you want your program to run correctly, just as if you were speaking in real life. These can be things such as how you type out certain functions, what you put at the end of a line of code, and how you set up certain functions. Each language is unique in its syntax, and while some may share similar rules, all will have some quirk which makes it stand out from the rest. Syntax is something that catches a lot of people off guard, since many expect every programming language to follow the same set of rules. But as we spoke about in the last segment, because each language is specialized for a specific task, each needs its own set of rules to function. Breaking or disregarding these rules will result in an error, just how breaking or disregarding rules in real life will result in an unintended message. As an example, if you wanted to do something simple such as initialize a variable, which is something that we haven't covered yet, but the example is still relevant. In Java, you'll notice how we have to specify what type of variable we are defining, in this case an integer, and also add a semicolon after the statement. In Python, we don't even need to define that we are trying to create a variable, and just have to type what we want to create. And in JavaScript, we just specify that we are making a variable, but we don't include what type of variable we want to make, like in Java. Even in this simple example, you can see how much a syntax matters when learning a new language, since while the goal of our program remained the same, which was to define an integer with the value 3, all the programming languages shown took different approaches. All these languages require that you follow this syntax because remember, computers are extremely dumb. If you forget one semicolon or misplace a character, the entire program will not run and send you back a syntax error, which is something we'll talk about later. Think of this as if you forget a comma in a sentence and the entire context of what you're trying to say gets misinterpreted. For example, in the sentence, "Let's eat, Grandma," if you were to forget that comma, while it may seem like a small mistake, it changes the entire context of the sentence, making it sound like you're going to eat your grandma. The same rules follow for programming. If you forget a semicolon, the entire context of your program could be corrupted and misinterpreted by the IDE. Now, another thing which makes IDEs so useful is that they will let you know if and when there are syntax errors in your code. Syntax errors, of course, being parts of your code which do not follow the same rules what we talked about previously. The IDE will tell you where in your code the error is and also won't let you run your program until the error has been fixed. Because of how important syntax is to writing code and learning a new language, it's recommended that you learn the rules and syntax of a language before beginning to write complex programs in that language. Most of the rules are tedious to learn but easy to master, and as soon as you can do that, you'll be able to easily identify syntax errors and take care of them easily, and be writing code in no time.